Hello and welcome. My name is Peace Mitchell and I'm co-founder of Osmompreneur, the Women's Business School, and Women Changing the World Press. I'm also chairperson of the Tererai Trent International Foundation, and it is my great pleasure to launch our new book, Sacred Promise, a book led by Dr. Tererai Trent. Tererai is an incredible woman. She is a humanitarian, an award-winning author, and also affectionately known as Oprah Winfrey's all-time favorite guest. It's now my great pleasure to welcome Tererai Trent.
Oh, thank you for that introduction. Thank you, Peace. I appreciate you very much.
Oh, it's so wonderful to have you here, Tererai, and we are celebrating this very special book, Sacred Promise.
It is, and I cannot wait to have this book in the shelves everywhere in the world. The authors, they did an incredible job. Each chapter is just amazing. To read through these chapters, you just feel like you're watching a movie. It's amazing.
Their stories are so inspiring and really show so much courage and resilience. But I'd love to ask you, Tererai, this topic, this theme of sacred promise, what was it that made you choose this theme?
Sacred Promise takes me back to my own childhood. You know, I always visualized my great grandmother was carrying this baton of early marriage, and she passes on to my grandmother, and she passes it on to my mother, the baton of poverty, the baton of illiteracy. And that baton was also passed on to me. But there was a time when my mother said, Tererai, do you really want to pass this baton to your children? In that moment, I said to myself, I have to make a promise, an unbreakable promise, non-negotiable, that I'm not going to pass on this baton to my own children. Well, I ended up achieving all my dreams, and I didn't pass on that baton. Then I thought, this promise was so grounding, and it is so grounding to me. There must be many other women who are making their own promises. Can I bring them to this global platform to discuss their own promises, to write and then to inspire other women and generations to come? And oh, girl, the stories came. It was amazing how these women came together and each contributed to the sacred promise. And that's the book.
Oh, it's so incredible. And the stories that these women have about their sacred promise and how they discovered their sacred promise and the difference that committing to this promise to themselves has made in their lives, but also in the lives of others around them, in their communities, and even beyond that. It's quite inspiring.
Yeah. And so today we have 6 of the authors. In fact, there are 36 authors, and today we have 6 who are coming to discuss with us about their chapters, but mostly focusing on that promise that grounded them and that is still grounding them in their work and in their personal lives.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. I think we should bring them on now and start talking to them and hearing about their sacred promises.
Yeah. So my first author is Laura. Laura's chapter is also grounding. It's beautifully written. And before I can go into Laura's chapter, let me welcome Laura. Welcome,
Hello.
Laura. How are you?
So very well. So happy to be here and having the opportunity to just chat and talk about the power and the intention behind this incredible book. It has been
Yeah.
such a cathartic process
Yeah.
to sit in this energy.
Yeah, and before we can delve into your chapter, would you mind to introduce yourself, who you are, your name, your location? I know it's still early in the morning here, but let the audience know who you are. Who is Laura Elizabeth?
Of course, of course. So I am Laura Elizabeth. I'm here in Perth, Western Australia. So we're at 7 p.m. here, dinner time for us. I am a women's embodiment coach and yoni mapping therapist, and also founder of Maven Press Publishing. So I wear many, many hats, and my intention is to help women discover their own truth and power.
Ah,
And both of those businesses lend themselves to this intention, and I feel like very much a holder of so many women's stories, and how we can move and get those out into the world is how each business
yes, yes, it's
operates.
about holding ourselves. It's about keeping ourselves to that promise. So, what is your sacred promise? You write it so well in this book.
So I went through many sacred promises,
Mhm.
which is so interesting, and I'm not sure what your other authors have shared with you, but sitting with an intention like this, often that original pull is not what you end up sharing.
Yeah.
So I had this huge idea of what I thought, and then as I sat to write, something flowed, and then the following day something else flowed, and something else flowed,
Yeah.
and what actually what cemented my sacred promise was the passing of my maternal grandmother.
Mm,
And and the story, very interesting hearing you talk to Peace before about, the baton being passed down through the generations, through
yeah.
that mother line.
Mm,
And the baton that she passed down to us was the not good enough story, and the shame and the
mm,
trauma that
mm,
came with that story. Um, so it ended up being such a huge healing process, and a grieving,
mm.
and this declaration of being enough. And
Yes.
not only that, but being enough with ease and grace, and no longer having to push and strive and prove
Mm,
prove our worth. And the intention behind that is to do this for my daughter,
yeah.
so that
Yeah.
she, having the trauma and the shame passed down through that cellular
Mm,
memory of the mother line, and doing
mm,
this work so that she has an opportunity to stand with her head held high, and not have to get to 30, 40, 50, and have to undo all of this conditioning and learning and shame, and the perpetuation of this cycle of I am not enough, I am not enough. So it was so huge. And I know that when I shared this chapter with my mother also, I got her permission to share some of the things in there that were obviously quite sensitive as well.
mm.
And she found it very beautiful and healing too. So I really felt that this book has given my family, my motherline, the opportunity for deep healing. So
Isn't
thank you.
is isn't it beautiful that sometimes when we allow ourselves to dig deep into our own trauma, into our own past, we are able also to dig ourselves out. And you write it so beautiful, so grounding. And I think your chapter is also going to resonate with so many women, because when women come together and we share these stories, we are also healing others. And thank you for that contribution. But tell me, why did you decide to be part of this anthology? Why?
I remember seeing it pop up on one of Pace's social media posts, and I have contributed to a couple of her previous books. And there was something in your messaging, there was something in the energy behind this book, and my whole body lit up with goosebumps.
Um,
And it was that full bodied absolute yes. And I remember getting really teary and emotional, and then joining the first Zoom that we had, the discovery call. I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. The stories that women shared and the energy that was in that space was remarkable, and I knew that I had to be a part of it. I didn't realize how much healing was going to come through. I mean, I know that through these processes there is a catharsis, but it was so deep, so deep. And now I feel like, if just one word from my chapter resonates with one woman and helps her on her own discovery into a deeper understanding of her truth, then I have served.
And your message is going to resonate with many. Your chapter, I'm telling you, this is what we are as women, to share our lives, to share our stories, so we can live in a better world. And thank you for doing that with this chapter.
Thank you.
And you write so many nuggets, so many lessons in this chapter. Is there one lesson, one nugget of wisdom that you would want to leave with the audience?
I think understanding that no matter how much we do, there's always more. There's always somewhere deeper to dig, some deeper truth, and knowing and understanding of who we are and how we can then be of service on a bigger scale. And to understand that there's no rush, that we can step into that with ease and with grace. And once we have that understanding and can take that radical responsibility for our own healing, for our own stories, for our own trauma, thoughts and actions, and we can move through with ease and grace, that I feel like that is the missing link. Yeah, absolutely, the missing link to do things
Beautiful.
from an open heart with ease and grace.
Radical transformation, radical responsibility. I love
Radical
that. I love
responsibility.
that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank
Thank you so much, Laura. We can't wait for this book, and we can't wait to read your chapter. And I think the world is in for a treat. And thank you. Now we come to our second author this morning, Elizabeth. Elizabeth's chapter is also grounding and healing. She's an incredible woman, and I just love the way she writes. Elizabeth, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's so incredible to be here with you and all the other beautiful women here in this room. It's so amazing. Yeah.
So Elizabeth, my goodness, before we delve into your chapter, I would love you to introduce yourself to our audience, who you are and where you are calling from.
Yeah. My name is Elizabeth Gabor. I'm 42 years old and I'm the mother of two girls. I live in Austria. I'm from Austria and I live next to Vienna. And my profession is a body and soul therapist. And my passion is to work with women to overcome their limiting beliefs and structures in their lives.
And you do that work so well. You do that work so well.
Thank you.
So in your chapter, you really go deep into the soul wounding and finding healing. What is your sacred promise, given what you write about? What is it about that promise? In what ways has it grounded you?
Yeah. My sacred promise is I would do everything what I could to create a world where it is natural for us women to live a fulfilled life. It should be natural for us to live a life of security, of wealth, of joy, of pleasantness, and a life outside of our cages. I had a
Oh,
lot of cages around me, and I
mm,
know it's so important to leave our cages behind, the cage of
mm,
being nice and good and socially acceptable and attractive, and when
mm,
women lead from the bottom of their heart,
mm.
everything will change.
Yeah, and you
Magic
write it
can
so
happen.
well. And you write it so well in your chapter about this cage that we build around ourselves, and you have a way of really bring clarity to it, that this is how you got out of that cage, and here is the healing process. And I think your chapter is going to resonate with many women. And tell me, why was it important for you to be part of this anthology?
Oh, it was so important for me to be part of this anthology because this book is a product of sisterhood. You know,
Mm,
it's all about co-creation. And I think when one woman have a vision of a better life, it's fine. But when women come together and have
mhm.
visions of a better life, we are unstoppable. We are really
Yeah,
unstoppable. Yeah.
you
And yeah.
I love it. I love it. Unstoppable. We become unstoppable. And you really express it so well in your book, and it gives the idea that when one of us is silenced, we are all silenced. And so for you to come in and join this sisterhood, I think it was a place, and is still a place for us to heal. And thank you for that. Thank you for bringing that healing into the sisterhood. And your book is full of wisdom. Is there any one key lesson that you want to leave your readers and the audience with, so they can reflect more on that wisdom?
Yeah. Don't let the environment define who you are. You are
Mm,
much more bigger and wiser than your limiting thoughts and beliefs and circumstances. Don't let the environment define who you are.
oh my goodness. Well
Yes.
said, well said, well said, well said. The past, the environment should not define who we are.
Yeah.
Now, we are coming to the end of my discussion with you. Let's welcome another author. And this time we are going to have Natasha. Natasha's chapter is also grounding. I truly enjoyed reading it, and I think the readers out there, you love what this young woman is bringing to your table. Natasha, welcome.
Morning. Hello. Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Hello, Natasha. Natasha, thank you. Thank you for being part of this book. And before we delve into your chapter, would you mind to introduce yourself, your name, and where you are coming from?
Yes. So my name is Natasha Charles. I'm the founder, CEO, and Chief Intuitive Strategist of Intuitive Coaching with Natasha Charles, which is a full life coaching and intuitive consulting firm. And I am based in Pennsylvania in the United States of America.
Mm, mm, mm. Well, what is your sacred promise? Why is it grounding you? What is it about this sacred promise?
So my sacred promise is two parts. The first part is that I am Natasha, and the second part is Natalie, who is my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Natalie, you are loved, believed in, and supported from the highest self. And the first part is a reminder to myself, and can be a reminder to anyone else if they'd love to take it for themselves, to love yourself at all times, to love all parts of yourself, that all parts of yourself are worthy and deserving of love,
Yeah.
to claim all parts of yourself. all of you is all that you are.
Mm.
And my second part is a continuum of that. It's a reminder that my daughter is so loved, so supported, and a reminder to remind her of that, to ensure that she knows that, to know that to be reminded, to expose her to and encourage her to know a divine love.
I love that, divine love, which is, I mean, that's truly deep, because when you think about it, if you are silent yourself, you will pass on that silencing to your kids. And you write it so beautifully in your chapter.
Thank you.
Why was it important for you to be part of this anthology?
You know, there are a number of reasons that this was important to me. This was important first and foremost for me, for myself. It was overcoming fear, overcoming doubt, overcoming any limiting belief that I could not do this, as a part of creating a life that I love and saying yes to my inner guidance, to my inner wisdom. Any detraction, anyone who doubted that I could do this, it wasn't so much in this space. It was more so about just saying yes to myself and to something that I deeply desire to do. I learned about this opportunity after the deadline, actually. I saw it on social media, and I actually commented on the post, and I said, oh my gosh, I missed the deadline. And I went to the website to just read about it, and the application was still there. And so I submitted my application, and days later, I received a note that I'd been selected. So I'm so glad that I followed that intuition, that guidance, and said yes.
Those inner guys, they truly are guiding you. Even in the way you write your chapter, you could feel that sense of groundedness, that sense of belonging, that sense of I am bigger than this. And there are also so many nuggets of wisdom in your chapter. If you can think of one lesson, what is that lesson that you want to leave with our audience?
You know, it's a toss-up for me. It's a toss-up between impressing upon any and everyone listening, any and everyone out there, that you are worthy and deserving of love at all times. And also the key lesson for me always is that mindset is so important. Mindset is everything. Thoughts are things. And so your mindset creates your reality. It creates who you are. It creates who you're being, which creates what you do. And so that it's a toss-up for me, which of those is the key takeaway.
Oh, beautiful. Well said. Thank you. Thank you, Natasha. Now we are coming to have a discussion with Saskia. Saskia's writing is done so beautifully, and her chapter will also resonate with many. I truly enjoyed reading your chapter. Welcome, Saskia.
Thank you, Tererai. It's such a big honor and such a big pleasure to be here with you and with the rest of the audience.
And Saskia, before we delve into your chapter, would you mind to introduce yourself, who you are, your name, and where you are from?
My name is Saskia Harkema, and I live in the Netherlands. Though part of my time I also live in Spain, so I have two homes. And I have different roles. I'm an academic. I work as a professor in entrepreneurship innovation. I'm a human rights activist. So I work intensively with refugees and marginalized groups and disenfranchised groups. And I also am an author. So, and an important one of the roles I have is that I'm a global ambassador of Female Wave of Change. So I work also, yes, intensively with women across the world.
Oh, that's honorable. That's honorable. Thank you for your contribution to the world to make this world a better place. So tell me, what is your sacred promise? Because you write it so well and you go deep in your chapter. What is your sacred promise? That which grounds you.
Yes, I to explain that I describe my life as a journey, and I had the first part of my journey, and this is the second part. And the first part was marked by, I would say, me hitting rock bottom. And this was a combination of things that I got severely ill. I had a burnout, depression. My mother had breast cancer, and I had a very rare virus, which there was no cure for. And so I really hit rock bottom. And I remember that I was at the hospital, and I realized that I had two choices somehow, that I could either give up or I could try to fight my way back into life, but also do that differently. And this is what resonates a lot with what the other authors have said, that my life had been marked very much by expectations that I felt that I had to meet. And this had been so defining that I felt that as a woman, I had not been visible. So I made it my quest to make myself visible by studying, doing a PhD. And then I realized, but this is not who I am. And so the sacred promise was I made when I was at hospital, I'm going to get out of this and I'm going to lead my life in a very different way, true to my true calling and my passion. And this is what I did. So this is very defining. My life changed completely after that period.
And I think you are providing some really needed lessons to other women, and your chapter will resonate with many. It will. And so tell me, why was it important for you to be part of this anthology?
It was for two reasons. I admire your work greatly. Really, I admire you as an author and as a human being. For me, when I saw this chance to become part of this anthology, I thought I have to go for it. I want to be part of this. So that's was one very important reason. And another reason is that I think that women have to be more daring, more bold. We're always so critical. We're always seeking perfection, and I think we have to be much more daring. And this is one of the reasons that I wrote contributed and wanted to be part of this anthology, to show that you can really hit and reach the darkest pit in your life, but you can get out of it and then shed off. And this is what you describe, what's you could say, and baggage that you don't need, and then become who you really are supposed to become.
Yes, and you write with such boldness and in a way that is so healing, because you're showing us that even if you are at the bottom of that pit, you can still rise, and you show it so eloquently in your writing. Let me ask you, there are so many nuggets of wisdom in the way you write in your chapter. Is there one in particular, one lesson that you want to share with the audience?
Yes, I think an important lesson is, I think that the importance of freedom, and how do I translate that into a lesson for me? I've traveled always a lot in my life. I didn't grow up in the Netherlands, so I always had an issue with what is home, and I think this is a very relevant topic. What is home? And we always confine it to a place and to a country. And my main lesson is home is within us.
Yes.
Home is us. It's where we are, irrespective of borders, irrespective of the differences that separate us.
Yeah. You know, I write in my Awakened Woman and I say, my sisters, my dear sisters, come home to yourself. And you're so right. Home is not that physical place. It's not that location. It's not the borders that we have, but home is within ourselves. And you do it in a beautiful way in your writing, how we can come home to ourselves. Thank you so much, Saskia. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think this book, Sacred Promise, is going to be grounding to many. It's going to open many people's hearts, and the readers are in for a treat. And thank you for your contribution. Now we are going to another author, Tracetta. Tracetta's writing is also grounding and also healing. I can't wait to introduce you to Tracetta. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Tererai. It is just a pleasure to be here with you and everyone else.
Oh, thank you. And before we delve into your chapter, because there's a way you write, there's a way you talk about our voices, and it resonated with me so much, and I think it's going to resonate with many, many readers out there. Can you introduce yourself, your name, your location, where you are coming from?
Yes, I am Tracetta Briggs, and I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'm the founder of Performance 3, which is a national leadership development firm that provides keynotes, training, coaching, and consulting services for small businesses and global leaders. And in addition to being a wife, a mom, a grandmother, I get the honor of having an important role in the National Association of Women Business Owners National Board. So I get to serve a lot of women across the US and help them by advocating for them and their businesses.
Oh, well said, well said. And what is your promise in this book?
Well, my promise is my voice journey, actually, and it started a long time ago. However, it manifested itself in the emergency room when I made this promise to myself, which was to use my voice according to my calling. I was in that emergency room. I was barely able to breathe, and I decided that I would go through a transformation to truly appreciate and use my voice in the way God intended.
Isn't it true that sometimes it is within our own adversity that we find our calling? I mean, your chapter crystallizes that. You show it so well, and I think many are going to resonate with it. They're going to resonate with the way you write here. They're going to resonate with the message. Why was it important for you to be part of this anthology?
Well, I had really been trying, Tererai, I had really been trying to write this chapter for a long time. I'd actually been trying to write a book for a long time. And it got to the point that if I didn't write this, I was going to stop talking about it. I was just frustrated that I couldn't get this out. I just couldn't seem to get it onto paper. And I tried several different ways to do it, but nothing seemed to be working. So when I got this opportunity and the word promise was in it, it was just perfect. I said, oh my God, it even has the word promise in it. And I just knew it was time. Like one of the authors said, I just kind of got goosebumps. And when I went to the first workshop, just the community and the support to get it out on paper was amazing. So I said, this is absolutely it. And a person told me at one time when I was frustrated trying to write my book that your book will get written when it's time. And I said, it's got to be time right now, but I was rushing the process and it just really wasn't time. And she was absolutely right. So now was the time, and being part of this with you, because I admire you so much and all these other fabulous women, it was just perfect.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And you also provide some really lessons, key lessons, wisdom. Is there anyone in particular that you would love to share with the world?
I would like everyone to really, really know that they need to find their unique voice and use it in the way that it was intended. And do not let anyone or anything stop you from doing that. Your voice is like a fingerprint. You are the only one who has it. And no matter what it sounds like, what people think about it, it is your voice. And you want to find the purpose that you were intended to use it for and do just that.
Wow. The silencing of your voice is not only your own silencing, but it is also the silencing of generations to come. Thank you so much, Rosetta. Thank you for your contribution. I can't wait for readers to read into your chapter. And collectively, this book, Sacred Promise, it has some really nuggets of wisdom. And I think the world is in for a treat. And I'll keep on repeating that because it is written in such an incredible manner. And these 36 women, they came together, rallied around each other and said, we can do this and we can deliver. And thank you. So we are now coming to the end of our session. Let me have Peace to wrap up things for us. Oh, beautiful. Thank you to all the authors who have joined us this morning.
Thank you, Tererai. It's such an inspiring group of women that we've heard from today.
Yeah.
They're beautiful stories of their sacred promises and the journeys that they went through to reach those promises is quite extraordinary.
It is. Oh my goodness. Women, you know, I always say the awakening of women, it is the healing of the world. So when women tell their stories and share their stories, they are healing the listener. But in the same moment, they are also healing themselves. Beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And Teresetta was talking about the collaborative writing process where we came together to create our chapters. And there was so much healing and sharing and holding space for each other as well as we produced this work. So this book is so special. It really is. And I know that people all over the world who read this book will be inspired to take action on committing to their own sacred promises. And the ripple effect of that, of when you follow your calling or your dream or your sacred promise and take action, the impact is profound.
And
so excited to see this book in the world.
And carrying that responsibility and just knowing you're not alone in this world. There are so many. And the ability to share these stories and inspire others is just incredible. What a way of giving back to other women and to the world at large.
Yeah, it really is a privilege and an honor to be part of this book. It's such a special book.
And thank you, Peace, for creating this platform. I honor you. I bow to you for creating this platform that has helped us to bring all these stories together.
Well, thank you for leading the way as well. We're working together and amplifying women's voices. And I just am so excited about this book. It's beautiful. So now let's bring our authors back. Love to see you all together. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your sacred promise with us today and talking about your message and your journey. It's just been so inspiring hearing from each of you. And I can't wait for everyone to read this book. So make sure that you order a copy of Sacred Promise. The proceeds from the sale of this book go to girls' education. They go to the Tererai Trent International Foundation to help invest in girls' education and create cultural change for these girls and generational change that will be felt by the whole community. And, you know, the ripple effect of that will go on for future generations. So it's so beautiful that this book gives back in such a special way as well.
Mm. And thank you for being part of this collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our authors. Thank you to everybody who's watching today. And thank you so much, Dr. Tererai Trent, for leading us in this beautiful collaboration. Okay, everyone, goodbye. Thank you so much. Congratulations to all of our authors.